All right, and we should be pulling in NASA's finest, Shane Kimbrough. Are you there, Shane?
Hey, Levi, how you doing?
I'm doing so good. Thank you for joining us.
So great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Yep, and Jenny's here too, and she's
Hi,
happy to hear
Shane.
from you.
Thanks for joining us. So
Hey,
glad to have
Jenny.
you.
On the screen,
you.
we see a picture of you here wearing your costume. I can't tell if that's STS 126. Well, your costume. Sorry, it's Halloween. I'm thinking costumes. We just had our kids on in their costumes, so that's where that's from. You're wearing your.
Hey, it's that time of year for costumes, right?
What do they call the one you do the spacewalks in?
The acronym is EMU, so Extravehicular Mobility Unit, EMU.
Well, because technically that's a one-man spaceship, right?
That is correct, yeah, because we have everything we need to survive in that when we go outside. Our communication, our oxygen, carbon dioxide removal, everything else that we have a little water as well, so we can sustain ourselves for a little while.
Netflix?
So, yeah.
Does it have Netflix in there?
Not quite yet. I guess maybe we'll have to do that in the next upgrade.
Gosh, and then you have some of them have propulsion of some sort where you can, like a chair where you can actually kind of move around, right?
So in the kind of the backpack of that spacesuit has all those things I was talking about before, and it also has some propulsion that if it was a really bad day and we happened to let go of the space station and all of our tethers broke for some reason, we actually have a jetpack on our back where we could fly ourselves back. So it's a nice capability. We don't ever want to have to use that. And of course, as an astronaut, you don't want to be the first person to use it because you get it named after you or something. You become famous in the wrong way. Right.
Yeah. Let's give it. So anyhow, that picture was up on the screen. So that's a little setup there. But yeah. So basically, on the phone is an amazing representative of the United States finest. I mean, obviously, you've served our country in the Army and West Point graduate. You were the commander of the International Space Station. You've been to space altogether twice for a total of how many days altogether, Shane?
189 days.
189 days in space. Once on the shuttle, and then you went up with the Russians as well, right?
Correct. Yeah, the most recent one was 6 months on station with the Russians.
And took command of the space station. And now, right now, you're not in Houston though, right now, correct?
That's correct. I'm in Los Angeles, of all places. So.
And you're there with SpaceX.
Yeah, we had a test today that NASA was kind of monitoring, and I was part of that team that was looking at one of their vehicles, one of their spacecraft. So it's always exciting to come out here and see the incredible work that SpaceX is doing.
Wow. So do you think it's a reality that NASA will be able to getting Uber rides to space with SpaceX at some point?
Yeah, we're going to be launching our astronauts on their spacecraft here next year. So probably, I don't know when next year, but probably in the late spring, early summer. So it's right around the corner.
Gosh, and did you get a flamethrower while you were there?
I did not. I need to go back. That's a good point.
They should have one at the gift shop, not a flamethrower. Man, but what a thing, the Tesla thing, the SpaceX thing, the tunnel to San Francisco, inside the mind of Elon Musk.
He's quite the visionary, no doubt, and he's got lots of resources, and their company is great. I love working with their people. The teams we get to work with, they're just super motivated to get us to space safely in return. So we're excited that they're kind of have the same mission that we all do.
And will that be, what do they call that one, the Falcon Heavy, or what's the one that he will be taking people on?
So the Falcon Heavy is the rocket,
Okay.
but the Crew Dragon, so Dragon is their spaceship. So right now they have a cargo Dragon. So these vehicles show up to the space station periodically with a bunch of cargo and clothes and food and new experiments and those kind of things. Even care packages from our family, so that's always nice.
We have a picture of it up on the screen. Gosh, that's incredible. So
cool.
they're currently taking those to the space station now.
Correct. They've been doing that for several years now, so they're doing really well, very successful. And then the next step for them is to make one for astronauts, for a crewed vehicle. So the Crew Dragon is again almost done. The first test flight of it's actually scheduled at the end of this year or early next year, and that's without people. And then so a few months after that is when we'll put the first 2 astronauts on the first manned Crew Dragon.
Wow.
That how long out do you think it'll be before people are getting to Mars? I know that's just quite the speculation, but
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, I think we're a couple decades away. I think we're 20 to 25 years away, technology-wise. So, the exciting part about that is when I'm talking to kids, I'm like, hey, it's your generation that's going to go to Mars for the first time.
Wow.
And so to see their eyes kind of light up and realize like, wow, that might be me, So that's the cool part about that it's so far away. Now, nobody that's there currently is going to be going to Mars, but we're working on things already to get things in place and to get better technology so that 20 years or so from now that we can actually put a human on another planet for the first time.
but it's in our lifetime, no doubt.
Absolutely.
Assuming we all take our vitamins and drink water and stay hydrated. 25 years, I'm like doing the math, like we should be around.
You should be all right. Hopefully, we're all around for that. But
Unless Jesus comes back. Well, Shane, the book I Declare War. Obviously, it's all about the personal battles, the difficulty. Before we get into maybe some of what I really wanted to get into with you, a little bit of getting into the right headspace to be at our best. How does that title hit you when you think of Shane versus Shane? Winning the battle with you. What kind of practical stuff comes to mind, or what instances or comes to your mind?
I love the title. First of all, I think it's a challenge to everybody personally, and you can apply it to so many situations. So, first of all, I just love it. To me, it just challenges myself every day. Hearing that and seeing it on social media a bunch now, it just reminds me that I've got to be my very best Shane Kimbrough every day. And sometimes I'm in that mood and I'm all right, but a lot of times I'm not. And so I got to battle that, hey, whether I'm being a dad or a coach or an astronaut or a friend, I've got to be the best one of those that I can be every day. All right. And that's not easy. I mean, it's easy to say it sometimes, but it's not easy to put into practice. So to me, it's really been challenging me to kind of get back. I would say at times in my life, I've kind of been at the top of my game, I'll say, but it's not all the time. And it's a struggle, I think, for all of us. It's something everybody can relate to. So I just hope I can be more consistent in that approach to my life every day.
You mentioned being a dad. I know you have a son currently at West Point. Zach, he's in this. What stage of that is he in at West Point right now?
So he's a freshman, a plebe. So that is, not the greatest time of his life. I'll tell you that much.
So you went through that. Tell me, drill down on that. What does that look like? What's the not so great reality of that right now for him?
Yeah, so you're certainly the lowest on the food chain there at West Point, and really at any college as a freshman. But there, it's a little more stressful just due to all the other duties you have to take care of, and in ways serve the upperclassmen through various duties throughout the day, along with going to college and taking 18, 19 hours, which is what every cadet takes. So usually that's well above what most college kids are taking. So kind of juggling all the military, the academics, and he's also a Division I athlete. So kind of the demands that requires, it just takes a lot of figuring out what's really important. And for him, he's kind of hitting his stride
it's
now.
Golf, right?
Figured out.
So he's still golfing in the midst of all that.
Correct. Yeah.
Wow.
So, that's 4 or 5 hours a day out of the day that you don't have to do other things. So he's not alone. There's people all over the country doing that, but it's just something that as a freshman, you got to, you're trying to figure all that out, and on top of the military stuff.
Now, how much do you have to resist and hold? Like, obviously, you're giving him advice when he asks for it, but do you feel like, as a dad, having been through literally his journey, not in the sense that you golfed at the same time or whatever, but you went through it, do you find yourself needing at times to bite your tongue from saying, well, here's what you know what I mean, in those conversations?
That's a great question. He's certainly sought our advice, and that's not just mine, but Robbie's too, my wife, and several times just recently. So he's kind of in that phase, it seems like, where he's struggling a bit, which everybody goes through. And I think I went through it probably weekly when I was back there. So he hasn't gone through it near as much as I have. So that's good. But he's starting to seek our advice on things. And it is hard sometimes not to offer it up without him asking, because I do know some of the struggle he's having. But my wonderful wife keeps me straight and makes sure that
to give him enough
we're kind of
space
waiting
to
for
be on
him.
his journey himself a little bit.
Exactly, because it's his, right? It's not ours. We didn't make the decision for him to go there. That was his decision, and all the amazing things he's going to learn from the number one leadership institution in the country is incredible. But it's a process, and you have to learn a lot of these lessons the hard way, so to speak. And he's just kind of starting on that journey now.
Yeah, I think if I were you, I would probably start every sentence, or be tempted to, with, "Well, son, when I was living in outer space," because it's like deal breaker, ender. It's like any argument. I don't want to clean my room. Well, I often, when I was living in outer space, didn't feel like cleaning my room either, and yet what I realized was I would just float on over there and do it. And
Wow.
but the need, I feel like, as a parent, so oftentimes it's not just what we say; it's what we bite our tongue and don't say, right?
Absolutely. There's so much truth in that. And, I got to get better at doing that, actually, and biting my tongue.
Yeah, well, a lot of the book, and what I'm talking about is embracing and confronting head on your dysfunction so your kids don't have to. And my favorite quote in the book that I give is from John Adams, who wrote a letter to his wife talking about how he had to study war so that his sons could study architecture, so that his sons' could study gardening. And this idea of whatever we're willing to fight, our kids will have a better tomorrow, and our grandkids can have a better tomorrow. And I think a lot of us, we hold back from, dealing with stuff. We just sweep it under the rug, but the sons and the sons' suffer for it, because any land we don't drive out of the hill country, if we don't drive the giants out, it's not there for our kids to inherit.
Right.
And I think for us to take the hill country, and as you could lecture me for about 20 hours, and I would listen with rapt attention. The high ground is always where the battle's won and lost, right?
Absolutely. Whoever has the high ground wins. That's all right.
And there's no higher ground in our lives than our mind game, our thinking, our brains at the top of our head. So in a battle like you would need to take Bunker Hill or take Normandy, the cliffs, our mind essentially is the high ground that the devil wants to take, but we have to declare war and take it for ourselves and to give to Jesus, right?
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Well, very well said. I couldn't even add anything to that. That's
okay,
amazing.
so well, you can add a lot to this. How do you remain calm when you are sitting on top of how many thousands of pounds is the shuttle that you're going up in?
Yeah, so about 250,000 pound bomb, is what you're sitting on.
You're sitting on a bomb, so that's casual.
Yeah.
I just saw First Man, Shane. Did you see it?
I did. I loved it.
How was it? Pretty accurate, or did it take a lot of license?
No, I thought it was very accurate, and it obviously showed a private side of Neil Armstrong's life that none of us had even heard about or seen. So that was really revealing, and I thought it was a very powerful movie and right on.
Now, I haven't read much. I mean, you told me to read The Right Stuff, which was my favorite book of this last year. It ended up quoting it twice in the book. But by the way, have you made it to your quote in I Declare War yet?
I have, yeah. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. And then I get at the end. Did you make it to the Right Stuff quote?
No, not yet. I'm about midway through.
So there's a part of I won't spoil it for you, but there's a story where I pee my pants, and so I go back to some of the early days and a quote from The Right Stuff about the very first. I think it was Gemini, right, where there was the urine in the tank and they didn't account for it.
Right.
Because he was sitting there and they didn't put a bladder bag in, and so the weather came and he ended up getting delayed, and so it's like first guy ever in space, and he did so with peed pants, But
why not?
Okay, yeah.
Exactly.
So my question, you're like, is there a question in there somewhere? My question is, how do you remain in control of the high ground of your mind in those critical moments? I imagine a lot of people listening are going, this guy lived in outer space. If you put me in a tight room on Earth, I would go agoraphobic or not claustrophobic. So to think of look, you can't call an Uber to the space station. You can't get out of here. how do you stay in control of your mind and the high ground in critical moments? And obviously for most people, it's not, the application isn't, well, next time I'm in a rocket with Tesla, at my back and blah, blah, blah. But their application is, doing a sales meeting at work, or being calm when when they feel like screaming at their kids. I'm asking for a friend. So what are some principles for you that have helped you keep in control of your mind in stressful moments?
Yeah, great question. Honestly, some of this will apply to other folks and some won't. For one, I was completely at peace sitting on my back on the launch pad in both of my launch cases. I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be in life at that moment. I had trained for many, many years for that moment, and I completely trusted my training. I trusted my equipment, and of course, that was years and years in the making. It wasn't like somebody just gave me a spacesuit I wasn't familiar with. If so, I wouldn't have done that, right? I have to be familiar with my equipment and confident it's going to work, and confident in my response if something doesn't go well. So all those years of training had led me to the point, and I was just so relaxed. I knew, of course, that I had so many people praying for me, and the power of prayer just lifted me up as well, and just made me get the chance to enjoy that crazy, ridiculous moment. Not just, be fearful or not be kind of in the moment and looking at the displays like I should have been. I felt completely engaged all the way. I just enjoyed the 8.5 minute ride to space. And some of my crewmates were a little more stressed out and a lot more stressed out in some cases. And I just was kind of in the zone and was right where I was supposed to be. So hopefully that helped answer your question a little bit.
That's huge, because what you're saying is essentially that you were trained and your training kicked in, and when it counted, you were ready, and your faith came into play. So that kind of speaks to both sides of the book, because in I Declare War, the first 3 cards are, you got to speak right, think right, act right. But then the 4th card is the Holy Spirit and trusting in Christ in you. And so for you had that baked in. And I think that's why it's so important. People don't wait till crisis moments to practice what they're going to say. Yes. Don't wait till critical moments to choose what they're going to do. But they've baked in, like you would do at West Point, like you would do it, going through the training you did with NASA. You've done that thing so many thousand times that when it comes to doing it and when it counts, you're not even thinking about it. Mm-hmm. Right. And it was Alan Shepard. Alan Shepard was the one who wet his pants. And he was the one who said, when he finally went up, everyone said, what was it like? And I don't think this made it into the book, but he said, it was quieter than I thought it would be, because they had so over-engineered the simulator with speakers of the piping in the rockets, what they thought it would be like, that by the time he went up, they forgot that when the doors sealed, it was actually, you heard a lot less of the rockets. So he goes, wait, is this it? And he kept waiting for it to get loud, but it never really did.
Right. Another point I want to make on that, the earlier question was, it wasn't just my NASA training that prepared me for that moment. When I look back on it now, it was my time at West Point. It was my family upbringing. It was my time in the Army and in crazy situations. All that kind of stuff led me to that moment. So I want to encourage folks, moms and dads that are out there, like, your whole life has kind of prepared you to be in that moment with your kid, or to be in that moment at work, or whatever it is. Wow. And you got the tools to handle it. And you just got to, win that game, win that battle, win that war in your mind to get there.
That's so good. I guarantee you just encouraged some parents.
Yeah, encouraged me.
You never know. You're raising, my daughter's dressed up as Amelia Earhart at the moment at the age of 6. So what Jenny does for her, whatever Olivia goes on to do, or Daisy or Clover, and Zach in your life, it's because of you and your wife that's going to propel him forward in his calling. So that's really special. Well, Shane, thank you for taking a moment and talking with us today.
Yeah, we really appreciate you joining us.
So great. Appreciate you having me. Love you guys. Love what you're doing. So thanks again for letting me be a small part of this.
Hey, and would you please tell Zach I said hello, and we're going to say a prayer for him tonight.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great day.
Shane.
All right. Y'all too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Hey, thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure you click subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the good things that are coming. Appreciate you taking the time to visit me here on YouTube. Have a great day.